My goodness, that was stressful. The Seahawks received a real good old-fashioned ass whooping from the Baltimore Ravens. 37-3. I am Mr. Positive usually on YouTube. I'm usually like, we're all good. Everything's going to work out. Just another loss. And there is some truth to that this week, but I'm probably going to be a little less positive than the usual. The thing is, the Baltimore Ravens proved that they're probably a Super Bowl contender. What we just watched was a team that has a Super Bowl contending quarterback, a Super Bowl contending defense, all around, the coaching, whatever you want to call it, a Super Bowl level talent team. And it might be the reality that the Seahawks aren't quite there yet. You saw a team like the Detroit Lions go to Baltimore last week or the week before, lost 38-7. We lost 37-3. The reality is that Baltimore, especially in Baltimore, might just be better than the Seattle Seahawks or teams like the Detroit Lions or whoever it may be. Now, that's no excuse because at the end of the day, 37-3 is an absolute ass whooping and it's unacceptable as a team. If you want to be a team that competes, if you want to be a contender in the NFL, that is not acceptable. There's no way around it. And it's stressful to watch because this team has good expectations. The way Geno Smith played last year, the way that they made a trade for Leonard Williams, showing that we are contenders. We're trying to boost up the defense to take it to the next level. And to have your first game out of the trade deadline after making a big move, after being 5-2, being first in the division, to go out to Baltimore and lose 37-3 really puts a damper on things. And I'll say this, and I've said it over and over on Twitter. You could always check me out on Twitter, at SAMI on tap, same as my YouTube. I tweet mostly Seahawks stuff. At the end of the day, we're probably going to beat the Washington Commanders next week at home. Realistically, that's just how I'm pretty certain that that's a game that's not going to be marked off as a loss. And it's going to kind of, put a mask over what happened this weekend because we're going to be 6-3. You might be in first place of the division or at least like a half a game or one game behind in the division. There's a chance that it just, is okay. I think at the end of the day, even though that's probably going to happen, that doesn't take away what happened today, right? You got to understand that this is the NFL. You're going to have some good games, some bad games. But even after a win next week when we're 6-3, this is a game that we're going to look back on when we're trying to figure out if we're contenders or not, or what's going to happen if we make the playoffs. We're going in, about to go play the Eagles in the playoffs. You're going to look back at that Baltimore game and be like, on the road, I hope we're not that same team. Because if we're that same team, first of all, probably not making the playoffs, and secondly, there's no chance we're going to win a big game on the road in the playoffs if we're this team. So there is a lot of negatives. And you look at just the statistics of the game. Just go to the team stats on ESPN or wherever. The Seahawks had 6 first downs compared to Baltimore having 29. Right there, forget defense, offense, just in general, if I told you, what was the final of the Seahawks game? I said, well, they had 6 first downs and the Baltimore Ravens had 29. You'd be like, oh, they got their ass kicked. Maybe not 37-3. Actually, you might think more. I don't know. But you forget what the score guess would be. But you would sit there and say, oh, that team got their ass kicked. That's very bad. We were 1 for 12 on third down. 0 for 1 on fourth down. 1 and 12 on third down while the Ravens were 6 for 13. That's just right there is another awful example. Now, this is the number. You can look at rushing, 28 yards to 298 yards. What the hell? Passing was not as big of a disparity, but also bad. But you just look at the total plays and total yards, and it'll explain to you how bad this was. So the Seahawks had 13 total drives, while the Ravens had 12 total drives. So we had more drives than the Ravens. We ended up with 47 plays for 151 yards. They had 75 plays for 515 yards. Our defense is supposed to be elite. We've been so good recently. We've been a top 10 defense over and over. If you watch my PFF videos, every week I'm posting my PFF after week 7, after week 8. Where are the Seahawks ranking in PFF? That's what I post almost every single week after the week. We've been in top 10 categories, almost everything except for tackling on the defense. Even on offense, we have been. I'm interested in seeing tomorrow or Tuesday when I do that video, where are the Seahawks going to sit now? Are they going to drop from 7th in a lot of categories to 12th, 15th? We're talking about 151 total yards for the Seahawks, like I said, versus 515, almost 5x. It's really like 4x, but you know what I mean. 100-something yards compared to 500-something yards. That's unacceptable. I don't care if it's on the road. I don't care if it's in Baltimore, Pittsburgh, New England, I don't care if it's in China, bro. I don't care. It is 515 yards versus 151 yards. So at the end of the day, a lot of bad happened. And I'm usually not this negative guy, but this is the first time in a while where I sit back and I'm looking at a Seahawks situation and I'm like, what is going on with this team? The coaching, what's going on with the offense? The defense lit up all these points. There's a lot of negative to look at here, and it sucks. I mean, there's no way around it other than the fact that it just sucks. And I hate to say that. I hate to be Mr. Negative. Just not my style, but it's the reality. If we want to look at the bright side, we can go back to what I mentioned, which is we play the Washington Commanders. It might be a chance to right the ship. But we have a lot, and I mean a lot of big things coming up, because we're going to have the Commanders. We're going to have the Rams, who we lost to at home week 1, which I think we should be able to win these next 2. If this team has any life in them, if they do right the ship, if they have juice, if they have any heart, if they have any determination, if the coaching's right, if Geno Smith has anything left in him, you're going to have to beat, and you will beat the Washington Commanders and the Los Angeles Rams. So you'll be at 7-3 on the season, and we'll be all right. Okay? But after that, you're facing the 49ers and Dallas and Philadelphia, and then the 49ers again. So if you don't win these next 2 games, you might be able to look at the season and say, we're screwed. But I think they're going to right the ship these 2 games. I mean, Pete Carroll just went up for his post-game press conference. He said this is a concern. The turnovers for Geno is a concern. The way the defense plays is a concern. They know it, but I feel like over the last 5, 6, 7, maybe even 8 years since the Super Bowl years, this team always finds a way to right the ship when they need to. There's games that are trap games. Like the Commanders could be a trap game. But overall, I think after an ass whooping like this, you go out there, you take care of business at home, you win, and then you go to L.A. There'll probably be just as many Seahawks fans as Rams fans in L.A. Like, no offense to the Rams, just the reality. Like, them and the Chargers have no real fan base. Those games have to be wins, and then you'll be at 7-3, and then we're going to be like, okay, whatever. We got killed by the Ravens. But if you don't win those, it's over. My point was the positive news is that we have 2 games that are winnable. And if you know me, I predict wins a lot. I'm biased. I love my Seahawks. I just always feel like they have a chance to win. But before the season, on our Sports on Tap Seattle podcast, which you can find on YouTube at Seattle on Tap, it'll be in my description. You know that my brother and I, George, talked about it before the season. The Rams was a game that I thought was going to be harder than we realized. Matt Stafford's first game back healthy. They always have the Seahawks numbers. McVay's a great coach. And it happened. I thought we were going to win probably, but I thought it was going to be a problem, and it was. The 2 games we talked about that were really scary on the schedule in the first half of the season is in Baltimore and in Cincinnati. And they both ended up being losses. Now, why it's disappointing is the Cincinnati game could have been a win if the red zone was just like the red zone offense did something. If they woke up for half a second, we could have looked at a situation where we're winning in Cincinnati, but we didn't. And then we got our ass kicked in Baltimore. But those are games you look at, going to the East Coast, morning games, really, really tough opponents, really tough environments. Sometimes you lose those games. That's just the freaking reality, and we did. But doesn't mean I want us to. I'm very disappointed. I like I said, there's some positives moving forward. The rest of the week, I'm going to break down some of the PFF grades and see if it was all eye test. Who was good and bad, but I want to touch base on a little bit about Twitter talking about Drew Lock, Geno Smith. I always am anti the Drew Lock versus Geno Smith conversation. I'm anti the idea that you can just bench Geno Smith and put in Drew Lock. and it's probably the first time you've heard me say this on this channel since Geno was our starter last year. I wouldn't have minded to see Drew Lock be put in the game. Now, I'm not saying we're calling this a benching, season's over. Mac Jones, you've seen Mac Jones for the Patriots, and I hate to compare Mac Jones to Geno Smith, but the reality is they're kind of playing the same type of football where you have a good, decent game, and then you have a shitty-ass game. Mac Jones sometimes was put on the bench when the Patriots were down 37-0. We saw it a couple times this year, I think twice, and they put in Bailey Zappi or they had another quarterback that came in that got an opportunity. I wouldn't have minded to see Drew Lock be put in for the third and fourth quarter and say, hey, we just need a change of pace this week. Let's see what Drew Lock can offer because we're most likely out of this game unless there's some special juice that happens with Geno Smith or some special juice where you put in Drew Lock and all of a sudden he's playing good. So I'm not saying you should have put in Drew Lock and called it a benching for Geno and the season's over and Drew Lock starting next week. Not what I'm saying at all. But sometimes, Geno Smith was playing as bad as a person can play. Geno Smith was sitting there. I don't know what the first half stats were, but his full game stats, he was 13 for 28 with 150 yards, 157. 0 touchdowns, a pick that wasn't a good pick, 4 sacks for 34 yards on the sacks. So 157 yards of a pick, no touchdowns. That's not the type of game that you expect from a quarterback like Geno Smith, especially in the loss. I mean, I know Lamar Jackson had no touchdowns, but Lamar Jackson had 187 yards. He was 21 for 26. He also had 10 rushes for 60 yards. They had 300 rushing yards. They didn't need him to throw a bunch of touchdowns. Tyler Huntley got a touchdown, their backup to OBJ, which is another story for another day. OBJ scored a touchdown on us in 2023. But Geno Smith was playing that bad where it's worth putting in Drew Lock when you're down, let's see what, a half we're down 17-3. By the end of the third, we were down 30-3. Put him in for a drive or two. Let's see what the hell he's got. I'm just being honest. For the first time in a while, I thought that's something we should try. We didn't. It's okay. But I thought we should try it. What a disappointing day. I tweeted out a couple things, and I actually wanted to use this for my YouTube video. So as always, I'll put it on the screen. At Sammy on Tap on Twitter. That's where you can interact. You know when I have new videos. You'll be able to see my, my post-game stuff, mid-game stuff. If I'm doing a video, I say, give me some ideas for the video. So check me out there. If you ever want to support me in general, check me out on my social medias. It's all at Sammy on Tap, SAMI on Tap. You can find us at SeattleOnTap.com, www.seattleontap.com. That's where we got our merch. You can find all our social medias, our podcasts, our articles. We have blogs and stuff, so you can check all that out. Or the Seattle on Tap YouTube, at Seattle on Tap. All in the link in the descriptions. And you can like and subscribe. But anyways, I was on Twitter. I said I'm going to record a Seahawks post-game video. I want to read off all my replies. Tell me how you feel about the Seahawks game, seasons moving forward, and the season moving forward. Give me everything. Open thread therapy session. So let's go through some of these. I wonder if you're on there. If you're not, I'm going to reply to a lot of people. Tell them. Asterix.co said, next week is Drew's time. Give him a chance. 8 games, and Geno hasn't proven to be a long-lasting QB1. Last season, 7.5 out of 10. Just good. This year, I gave him a 5 out of 10. Just want to see what Drew can do. I'm sure it won't be worse. Now, that's interesting because, as I said, I don't think it would have been a bad idea because he probably wouldn't have been worse than what Geno was today. Now, that's tough to say, knowing that Geno's the guy we paid. We have to stick with him. We paid the guy. We have to give him an opportunity to finish the season at least and see where we're at. And it was just a bad game or two. I know that a lot of people want to say it's worse than bad game or two, but the Seahawks are 5-3. We got to breathe at some point. Big J. Lou said, after watching Dobbs, Mayfield, and Stroud, I have no nice comments to make. I mean, like I said, they're playing against the number one defense, like one of the best defenses in football. So we can't assume that somebody like Dobbs, Mayfield, or Stroud, even though he's a rookie, we can assume they'd be better in this situation. I just wanted to see Geno play for a couple minutes. Drew Lock play for a couple minutes just to see what we potentially could have. That's it. I'm not asking for much more. We got a lot of I'm not too happy. I'm also not too worried about it. They're not ready, and I wish they had made it close, but I never thought we were Super Bowl contenders. It is what it is. Time for Washington next. And that's what I was saying at the beginning of the video. We are not Super Bowl contenders. It sucks to say, but it's the reality. Not yet. I think this team can be in a year or two. I don't know if that's going to be with Geno Smith. Not quite sure. Probably not. It's probably going to be with a young quarterback or somebody we trade for, some situation. I'm not sure what it is. But we're not quite there yet. And that's just the truth. And we can't fight the truth every single week. We can't just keep fighting the truth. I've done it. You've done it. We've all done it. Now, that doesn't mean shit's over. I know there's some people who can be like, unsubscribed, you're so negative. I'm not negative. It's just the reality. We are not there yet. You want me to tell you we're there when we're 5-3 and we just lost 37-3 and lie to you? No, you want me to be honest. I can still be positive. I said we're gonna beat Washington and the Rams. We're gonna be 7-3. If we're 7-3, we got to be like 2 whatever it is, like 2-5 the rest of the year to probably make the playoffs. Cool. But that doesn't mean it's going to be like last year. We're not going to win the Super Bowl. But that's fine. You want these players. We have a lot of young guys on the team. We're the 5th youngest team in football. Let them get a taste of the playoffs 2 years, 3 years in a row. You need to do that before you become a Super Bowl team. So this is not negativity. This is just reality. And that's how I see it. An absolutely embarrassing loss. This is NCLHC. That's their Twitter name. Absolutely embarrassing loss. Geno and Waldron need to be better. Do not blame the defense for this loss. They were exhausted. Had no reason to play well due to the lack of offense. That's one of the other points I want to get to. And the rest of these comments, we'll go through them another time. And, I'll keep talking to people. Because somebody else said, Scott, Man of Steel, said, we're lucky to be 5-3 and we're not a good football team this season. Or maybe we're all right. A lot of people are like, we're 5-3, but we're not good. Okay, or maybe we're 5-3 and we're a 5-3 team. We're not a 6-1 team. There's a reason we're not 8-0. There's a reason we're 5-3. We've beaten 5 teams that are beatable, and we've lost to 3 teams that we couldn't beat. That's how I see it. But this is not on the defense, that 37 points. I know in the beginning I was, I'm pretty upset the defense played as bad as they did. They did play bad. But the offense also was on the field for about 5 seconds every single possession. And then the defense had to get back out there. There was that Boye Mafe strip sack. I remember tweeting this. Before I could even get the tweet off, before I even pressed publish on the video of the strip sack, because the Seahawks posted it, I was like, cool, I'm going to tweet this. I was like, Boye Mafe strip sack. This defense is showing up big, and we're still in the game. As I pressed tweet, Michael Dixon was coming out for the punt. 3 straight plays, Seahawks offense out. That was the story of today. So this is not all on the defense. It's not all on the offense. There's obviously a little bit of everything, but the offensive line needs to be better, and the offense does need to be better and stay on the field in order to give the defense a chance. And at the end of the day, when I say the offensive line and the offense need to be better, that probably means there's some personnel that needs to be better. And that could be quarterback play. That could be offensive line. It's mostly those two. We have really good receivers. We have really good running backs. It's pretty obvious. We all know that. You know that. I know that. Everybody in the NFL knows that. But if Geno Smith can't get him the ball, and if the offensive line can't block for Geno Smith, how is he supposed to get the ball to those guys? So, all in all, I'm not just sitting here blaming Geno Smith. And I want nobody to take that wrong. When I said I want to see Drew Lock, I said it wouldn't hurt to put him in for a couple minutes. Geno Smith just can't get the guys the ball if his offensive line is going to give him half a second. Geno Smith was hiking the ball. Hike, 1, 2, boom, hit. 1, 2, boom, hit. Hike, 1, 2, 3, look right, look left, hit. There was no opportunity. He had no opportunity to sit there in the pocket, have some time, check out what's happening left and right, see where the receivers are, see where they're not. He had no opportunity to do that. And that's what led to a situation where the offense looked awful. The defense also looked awful. It's really tough. You go through the comments on Twitter. It's mostly, this team is nowhere near Super Bowl contender unless Geno kicks it up a notch. Everybody played terrible, but at least Boye Mafe continued to play at all-pro level. I missed utilizing the tight ends like last year. The overall play calling was better for Geno and what Waldron has done this year. Seahawks have no chance with Geno Smith. Give away multiple turnovers in multiple weeks is unacceptable. We need to finish out and draft a QB. As you can see, this is the reality. Is everyone feels like I'm not seeing much defense. I'm not seeing much Pete Carroll. There's three things I'm seeing in common. The offensive play calling sucks. Say Shane Waldron. Geno Smith's not good enough, or just overall we're not contenders. Like we're not there yet. Those are the three complaints. Not there yet. Geno Smith's not good enough, or Shane Waldron's play calling sucks. The reality is it's probably one of those. But we got to figure it out. On to the next one. Don't forget, on to the next one. Okay? They are going to beat the Washington Commanders. They're going to beat the Rams. We're going to be 7-3. And my next two Sunday videos are going to be like, we're so fucking good. That's how it's going to work. That's just the reality. Because we're going to do it. We're going to get there and it's going to happen. That's the reality. I love y'all. Stay positive. I'll be back 3-4 times this week. PFF rankings for every position, grade, whatever it is. I'm going to do some other stuff. I'm going to do some maybe film breakdown this week. I got the all 22 coaches film. I'm going to start doing those. And I'm going to be doing maybe some player breakdown specifically from PFF. So I love y'all, and we'll be back. Like and subscribe if you want to support. And still go Hawks. Don't take me wrong. We're winning the next two. Peace.